Testing, 1, 2, testing.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to our planning meeting. And I think this is going to be quite exciting. We've never seen so many faces all in one go. I believe that some of you want to speak on the Leadenhall item. So if you want to speak on that, can you put your hand up for me? Right, 3. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring that forward. We'll do the apologies and the public statements, and I'll bring the Leadenhall thing forward so that you don't have to stay for the whole meeting unless you really want to. Right, apologies.
None received.
Public questions and statements.
None received.
Councillor questions and statements.
None received.
Minutes of the previous meeting. Is everybody content with them? Yeah, everybody content? Thank you. Declarations of interest.
None received. No.
Dispensations.
No dispensations.
And there are no chair's announcements, apart from to say that there's lots of things always going on, as ever, and it's nearly Christmas, and there's things popping up all over the place. So let's just hope we can have a good one. Right, so we're going to bring forward the Leadenhall. So if whoever, we'll look at the plans as we go, and if there's things that you'd like to point out on there, please feel free. So if you want to form an orderly queue and decide who's going first, second, third, and fourth, that would be great. Thank you.
Just have to press it once. That's it.
I have a handout which summarises much of what we're going to say. Would it be helpful for me to pass that round?
That would be very useful. And if you can give us your name so we can get it recorded, because I'm going to forget.
There might not be enough for one each. I apologise. So my name is Jeremy Edwards. I'm a trustee of the Salisbury Cathedral Close Preservation Society. Thank you for this opportunity to speak. The November amendments to this planning application fail to address the issues raised throughout the planning process from the beginning. Firstly, I'd like to say failure to look after Leadenhall and its gardens should not be a reason for granting planning permission. It's a Grade 1 listed building. It's been empty since 2017. Why has it been allowed to become derelict with fallen ceilings and black mould? Historic England and Georgian Group have expressed concern about the chapter's failure to maintain and repair Leadenhall. This is entirely separate from planning applications, and by granting planning application for the reason that any use is better than a crumbling building is tantamount to rewarding such neglect. It also sets a dangerous precedence. It says if you have a plan for a building, a listed building, a good way to get it through is to not maintain it, let it fall into a serious state of repair, then put your plan forward, and the planners will have no choice but to say, well, it's almost falling down, whatever it is you want, we'll just say yes to. There are a number of listed buildings in the Close and in Salisbury. It would be a terrible shame if this precedence was understood to be a way forward. So that's the first thing. Second thing, I'd like to talk about about our planning policy and the neighbourhood development plan, which is part of the Wiltshire Development Plan. Paragraph 12 of National Planning Policy Framework is clear about the statutory status of the development plan as a starting point for decision making. And it states that where a planning application conflicts with an up-to-date development plan, including any neighbourhood plans that form part of the development plan, permission should not usually be granted. In the introduction to the neighbourhood plan referendum draft, Councillor Annie Riddle noted that the importance of protecting and enhancing our architectural heritage and to give Salisbury people more control over their destiny. Following the referendum, which gave huge support to the neighbourhood plan, the plan had legal standing as part of the development plan. The chapter devoted to the Close notes particularly the importance of the tranquil and green space in the city. Policy 7 is about the Close and requires plans to respect the character of the close, avoiding harm to the special architectural landscape qualities of the close. It specifically refers to the Cathedral Master Plan of 2016, which does not refer to Leadenhall. And you have been sent previously the opinion of the barrister Christopher Boyle, KC, who advises the plans contravene planning policy. That's all I would like to say.
Thank you. Would the next speaker like to come up? You'll have 3 minutes.
Hello. We thought you'd like a change of face at this point. My name's Liz Slater, and I'd like to echo Jeremy's thanks for letting us speak properly this time. The first thing I want to deal with is the plans to change a historic house into an office. You really shouldn't, and I don't mean you personally, but one shouldn't, try to turn a delicate historic building and garden into a 21st century office. The architects have already had to withdraw the plans to strengthen the floors because the conservation officer, among others, said the plans were too damaging. As a result, the floors will flex because they're not sufficiently strong to be used as an office. And because they'll flex, they will damage the historic fabric. So it's heads you lose and tails you lose. You can't do anything to make this into a viable office. You also can't install a lift. So there's going to be no access for anyone with mobility issues beyond the ground floor. Absolutely no one, no way at all. The Dean and Chapter have not said in their application, but they actually own, a few yards down the road in the close, a 20th century office building which was formerly part of the Sarum Training College. They already use part of it. It's a substantial building, it's not listed, it would be much more easily updated than Leadenhall because it's 20th century, and it would have cheaper running costs. The thing that puzzles us is why, when you run a charity where you're legally obliged to spend your money sensibly and prudently, you would choose to spend it on Leadenhall rather than Wyndham House. The second issue, which really worries us, is the plan to put a large archive building in the walled kitchen garden. The first thing is about this, why would you put an archive with totally irreplaceable documents, some of which are more than 800 years old, in a garden that floods? If you look at the handout, you'll see 2 pictures from January 2027. That is not an unusual sight down the western side of the close. That was 2024, those photographs. We know they were dated from 2024. The other thing about the archive is it's set forward from Leadenhall. It's bigger than Leadenhall. It's white. It will shine like a beacon wherever you are in the southern part of the close. It will utterly dominate views. As you walk in through the Harnham Gate, it will glow, whereas the other buildings are quite recessive. And the rest of the kitchen garden is going to be covered with large solar panels, each of which is nearly 9 feet high, and there's heading for something like 200 of them. And there's going to be air source heat pumps planted underneath them, which are going to run 24/7. So at the moment, you've got a tranquil close, but what you will have is a close with a constant hum. And because it's supposed to heat and light Leadenhall, it's unlikely to be satisfactory because, of course, it's a leaky old building. And I live in a leaky old building, and I know they're hard to heat. The other thing that's very important is that the plans for the archive will destroy what we call cultural views. Annie will be aware of these from the neighbourhood plan because they're drawn into the diagrams in the neighbourhood plan, including the Constable views. So some of those views from the Harnham Slope and out towards the Harnham Slope, and from the southern part of Marsh Close. Sorry, can you? Oh. Can you hear? From the southern part of Marsh Close, they'll be completely obscured. And the most important view that you're probably all familiar with is the famous rainbow painting by John Constable, which was done across the water meadows, and at the foot of the rainbow was Leadenhall, because that's where his great friends lived. And the third thing I'd like to point out is, as you know, there's more than 200 comments on the Wiltshire Planning Portal. Most of those are objections, and they keep growing by the day. And it's not just local residents, and it's certainly not just members of the residents of the Close, but it's a lot of people and a lot of local people. It's also the Georgian Group, the Gardens Trust, the Wiltshire Historic Buildings Trust, art historians, two particularly eminent ones, one from Tate Britain, planning specialists, and a landscape historian. The dinner chapter have completely failed to look at alternatives for Leadenhall. The obvious alternative, of course, is that you turn it back into a residential building, because that's what Elias de Deeren built it as before he built the cathedral. So it could be returned to that, or it could be of proper public benefit. The garden is a rare and beautiful survival of a small town garden with a walled kitchen garden. Mostly they get built on in towns and they disappear. The 11th of June 2026, that's next year, is the 250th anniversary of the birth of John Constable. Salisbury contributed absolutely uniquely to the development of his art because of his stays at Leadenhall. Much of this landscape is unchanged, unlike his landscape in Suffolk. We'd like to have a John Constable Centre where some of his works could be seen. There might also be studios, education, therapeutic use of the garden. It's an opportunity for the chapter to engage with the city and contribute to the economy. The Salisbury Cathedral Close Preservation Society has repeatedly offered to talk to the chapter in order to reach an agreement. We've been turned down repeatedly, but we're still willing to talk. And if I can just summarize what Jeremy and I have just been saying. So it goes against planning policy, what's proposed. It will damage a house and garden of great historic importance. It's in a flood zone, whatever the strategic plan for Wiltshire says. We all know that. There is huge opposition from locals and from national and international experts to the plans. There's been no exploration of alternative uses. There is an alternative place to put an office building in the Close, and we shouldn't reward neglect by allowing this to go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you. I think you were next, weren't you, to speak? Oh, yeah. Thank you.
Good evening, councillors, and thank you for the opportunity to speak. I'm James Dick, and I'd like to make just two very short points, if I may. Firstly, I live at number 69, the adjacent house to Leadenhall, which is actually on slightly higher elevation. In just the 4 short years that we have lived there, we have had 2 significant flooding events where floodwater has covered over half of our garden. During those events, the water at Leadenhall has extended to the back of the house, including covering the tennis courts where the proposed solar array would be sited. With all due respect, I don't believe it requires an engineering degree to realize this is an unsound proposal. Secondly, I would like to comment from a professional perspective. As a property insurance underwriter at Lloyd's of London, specializing in natural catastrophe risk, I have many years' experience underwriting flood policies. I can honestly say that if the proposal came across my desk to ensure an archive building that would house valuable historic and irreplaceable documents on ground that was known to regularly flood, I would have no hesitation in declining it. I'm sure it is unintentional, but I believe it to be negligent to place an archive building on this site. And given the Environment Agency's flooding forecasts, I believe that within 10 to 15 years' time, this archive building will be uninsurable. It is for these reasons that I urge you to object to this proposal. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Is there anybody else who wants to speak? John, were you? Were you wanting to speak on Leadenhall, or was it something else? No. Okay. Right. Is there any? Shall we look through some of the plans and see? Because I think I think what you've told us does give a different view on what we knew. So do more, learn more, do better. That's all we can ever do. What's the landscape master plan? Anybody want to speak on it? Annie?
There are various things I'd like to say about this. I do, as the chairperson of the Neighbourhood Plan Steering Group, I worked closely with Dieter, who we miss very much. And I know that he was strongly opposed to the cathedral, the Dean and Chapter's plan. And I did have great respect for his views. On the other hand, we have two conflicting council's opinion now. We've been presented with, the cathedral authorities have drawn to our attention only today, an opinion from their own council, which says basically that this is not against the provisions of the neighbourhood plan. I think that's a basic argument. I'm sure one of my colleagues will expand upon that in a little while. So that sort of puts us in a bit of a tricky position. I'm very much in favour of the argument that we shouldn't reward failure. I think we've seen this happen with the listed hangar at Old Sarum Airfield, which was allowed to just deteriorate to the point where it was irreparable. And that was in the interests of pursuing a planning application there. It's been a very sad experience. I don't understand why the Dean and Chapter haven't taken action to stop the decline of Leadenhall, and I would have liked to have heard something from them about that, because it's been empty for a number of years now, and I think it would have been helpful to us to understand why it's not been maintained to such a point that the argument is now, well, use it or lose it. I'm not happy about that, really. I take your point about there being no mobility access, because it's not possible to have a lift, because the building can't take it. I didn't know that there was another modern building which could be used, and it's not this planning committee's place to argue with the Dean and Chapter about what building they should use. All we can do is look at this application. But I didn't know that there was another possibility there. I think if we could find an image which shows the thing, one of the phrases that struck me from your evidence was that it was white and larger than Leadenhall itself and would shine like a beacon and dominate the scenery. I wonder if we can, I don't know how we can see in one photograph the impact of that. Yes, please. I won't be able to hear you unless you come to the microphone, though.
What the Dean and Chapter, and that's actually quite a good way of showing it, but it's going to be much more obtrusive than that. What the Dean and Chapter have failed to do throughout is to produce what are called verified views, which actually show scale drawings and the impact. And the reason they've done that is because the impact is so dreadful. Tim Wilcox, one of the art historians who's very well respected, pointed out that what they had done, they being the architects, is carefully cropped some of the John Constable images and some of the drawings so that the rate and scale of the damage it would do was not so evident. What we did, and we submitted it with our most recent objection, was one of our trustees is an architect, and he did a scale drawing where he superimposed that view of the archive building onto a drawing and showed what it would look like from the Harlem Gate. And it looks horrific. If you look at the buildings either side, you've got a relatively new house to the south, Westwalk House, which is very recessive because it's in dark brick. And then you've got Leadenhall to the north, which has the Roman stucco, which is quite recessive again. And then you've got this bright white limestone mostly and flint building, which the roof line of which is going to be higher than the walls of Leadenhall itself. It is going to dominate terribly.
I have seen somewhere a drawing, I don't know if it's the one you're talking about, which shows that building in a silhouette.
Yes, we did that.
I wonder if we could have that up, possibly. Do you know which paper it was in?
It was in one of our objections. So it wouldn't, the one I'm talking about now is in the most recent objection, so it would be in the early, if you go to the comments, if you go up to, and then you'll see a Salisbury Cathedral Close, that one, if you click on that, and then you go to the file, the right-hand arrow, right, and then if you go down, those are the pictures you've got, that is what you will see from Harlem Gate.
Crikey.
Yes. The other quote worth seeing at the top of there in red is guidance from the National Archive, which says you should not put irreplaceable archives on flood zones, which is kind of common sense. And I'll stop interrupting.
Thank you very much. Right, Atticle, you wanted to speak. Oh, yeah, Atticle, just bear with us.
Sorry, thank you very much indeed. My name's Anne Waddington, and I am just compelled to try and contribute here, both as an ex-resident from the other side of Leadenhall in Little Canonry Cottage, and as an ex-governor of Leadenhall, as well as somebody, I call myself Reformed Counsel. And so historically, as a barrister, I would only ever have been able to provide an opinion based on the information that I was given. So the reason for my contribution now is I have very, very real objections to, but that I don't want to repeat what others have already said. Perhaps I'd like to just moot the possibility that there is a difference in council's opinion because of the information that has been provided to council. And what has surprised me, that this has got even this far in the planning process, is that to all my understanding, for the many years of being a resident next door and a governor, that there was a site allocated for the archives, which was incorporated into the neighbourhood plan. And it was never, ever the intention to put it on the site of Leadenhall. And one of the reasons that the school that I was a governor of became unviable was because the school was required back for education purposes. And therefore, I am completely and utterly nonplussed with how this hasn't been properly considered. And I verily believe that that would have informed council's opinion had they been aware of that fact, not thinking that this was the only viable site in the close. It is not. A previous site was allocated, and I do not understand, therefore, how we can be led to believe differently. So I moot that as a possibility for the difference in council's opinions.
Thank you very much. Atticle.
Thank you, Chairman. This application, firstly, this is a very delicate site. a delicate area as well. I mean, I've been in the planning committee for over 12 years now. I've seen a lot of plannings and a lot of issues, but having to see almost 200 objections and all the possibilities of a rejection or a compelling argument, this would be very wrong of us to even consider planning this or approve in any way, because we've heard from Jeremy in a very succinct way of all the objection. Our duty, although we cannot make a decision, but it's up to the Wiltshire Council. However, we have we can make a contribution as why we are objecting. And with all the things, especially with listed building and all the aspects that they have drawn to us, this is the objectionable ground as well, especially the gentleman who just mentioned about the professional level as well. I think those are the things we need to pick up, and we show our strong objection for all those possible reasons. And I think it's correct to say what you've touched on as well. It was like, leave it. If that goes along, then it's very likely that we can do whatever they wanted to do. That's why they have neglected it and left it. That is the absolute truth. There is no going away about it. And I think the chapter we should, if they were here, I think they would find it very hard to answer that question. That's why I don't think they are here, simply because of that reason. So I think the points he's made very succinctly, and I will certainly object to all those grounds. And I think we should pick up some of the positive one, that Wiltshire Council also believes that it is the objectionable ground. And I think there are many as why we should object. So I will definitely be objecting to that one. And thank you for the presentation. So
Thank
it is
you.
a very important side. We should do our best to preserve it.
Can I go along the row? And right, Andrew, have you got anything to add?
Yeah, thank you. I wasn't here at the last meeting, unfortunately, being away. I'd certainly like to know more about the views. I haven't, I've seen the sort of Constable view and the paintings and things, and that doesn't feel massively persuasive to me, but I haven't been on the other side to check, if you like, where the building would be and sort of trying to see it from, the bottom of Harnham Slope. The building, in terms of being against the neighbourhood plan, the neighbourhood plan always seemed to me to have some flex in it. This is the first neighbourhood plan. We know it's not perfect, and equally, we know that ultimately, the cathedral sort of close plan, doesn't rule out things elsewhere. It just says, this is where development should be a priority. So that one for me doesn't feel as though we're going against planning rules at the moment. It's basically saying, this would be an exception, which if people think is the right thing to do, would be the right thing to do. When it comes to the building, I have some sympathies to say it could perhaps be made more in keeping, and particularly when I saw photos of this building as to how it would look against the old canonry. There's kind of sort of arches on the end faces that you think, well, these are beautiful architectural features that could be incorporated into the new plan. Like, you've got a flat wall there, whereas you look at the old canonry, it had these sort of Norman arches and things. You think, well, it doesn't feel as though all the effort has been made to make it, fit into the architectural style that previously existed. In terms of flooding, having read some of the flood, risk mitigations, it does seem as though they have taken into account, the flooding that does take place. As somebody who lives very close to the floodplain, and thankfully never been flooded, or that land has never been flooded, then, there are some margins where, a small height difference does make a big difference. So I'm not fully persuaded by that. The one area that I do think is definitely better could be made is the solar panels. The idea of having a solar farm in the close just seems to me to be absolutely incongruous. You can get solar tiles, these BIPV tiles, which are fantastic. They just look like natural tiles. However, they are not suitable on top of an archive because of the risk of fire that it introduces, the risk of leaking, which would increase the risk. However, you've got this massive conference hall where BIPV tiles would be eminently suitable. So whilst trying to keep the carbon footprint of this facility down, I'm not persuaded that a solar farm there is the right choice. So I think it's, for me, there are a few areas where this could definitely be made better. I'm still, waiting to hear other things to kind of form a view in favour or against. Thank you.
Thank you, Mac.
Thank you. Thank you for all the presenters. I've spent, because this is also my ward, I've spent an awful lot of time reading all the documents, considering everything, and have been marched around asking all the same questions as you to the Dean, well, the Dean himself and the chapter. And it's difficult. For a start, I would like to say, the latest King's Council opinion that they got, has everyone read it? Because it's quite interesting, because basically, my view, my interpretation of it, the summary is that there's no wording in the neighbourhood plan that this proposal is contraventional, so that can't be used as an argument, nor should it. So then it comes to, is this a desirable thing? Incidentally, the Dean and chapter have had a lot of talk about alternative arrangements, and they will tell you till they're blue in the face that there's nowhere else to put these things. They're spread about. Whether that's true or not, I can't say. I'm just saying, it's worth getting talking to everybody, and those on a committee like this should talk to everybody, because they swear blind that those things are almost in danger in different, underneath the cathedral in an attic somewhere out the back. They're not consolidated. They talk about this other alternative house, Stevenson House, as I got shown it, as being in terrible order and would require a lot more money, which would be better spent at the same time restoring Leadenhall. I wonder whether the best form of action, instead of back and forth with KCs and sort of cancelling each other out, is both sides to find some sort of compromise in making the appearance. For example, today I've seen, their lovely mock-up makes it look like it's almost like a war memorial. And then with respect, your one is coloured bright yellow. We don't know which. Everyone's trying to make a point on both sides. There must be a design compromise. They also swear blind that they never wanted to put the archive in that place. They wanted to put it around the back where the swimming pool is, and were told by the environment people that really will be flooded, which is where a lot of the pictures of flooding are, that it's much better there. It's also been raised up in its design, so it won't be flooded. There must be a design compromise which will not, surely, that's what I would propose, is rather than throw it all out, is that, seek compromise, seek amendments. That's what I would propose.
Thank you. Al.
Thank you. Very, very difficult. We're somewhat caught in the crossfire here. Obviously, with the number of objections to this planning application, that carries a huge amount of weight. And your reasoned arguments also carry a huge amount of weight. But we also have to consider the opinion of Historic England and two somewhat conflicting King's Council opinions. I agree with Mac. I think the best solution for this is for the two sides to basically sit down and have a chat about it, work things out. Otherwise, we're going to be in a situation where things are just going backwards and forwards. The
This is also quite difficult for me as I sit on Wiltshire Council Southern Area Planning. I'm also reserved on strategic planning. So I have to be somewhat careful about what I say because I'm at the risk of predetermination on any decision that those committees might make. And I don't want to be in that situation. I want to be able to judge this on its merits without giving a prior opinion. I have so much sympathy with you. Very emotive subject. Yeah, that's all really I can say. So I'm going to have to abstain on this. Thanks.
Okay. Phil? I believe Councillor Hocking has called it in. Go for it, Phil.
Thank you for all your comments today. Since the first time we had this last month, I've always been concerned of the archive going in this position. From your statements, from the pictures and things, I can see with the new flood assessment they've said about raising the building by a metre. So probably that's why the pictures that you've shown today is that building looking a lot higher compared to what it is there, because probably the pictures that they proposed probably didn't have the metre height put on them. So that definitely needs to be looked at for both parties. Again, it definitely seems to be a thing that this is very strongly viewed from your side. I totally agree with it, because the building's been left for a long time. The problem is, if this doesn't go ahead, what happens to the building? Does it just continue to fall to rack and ruin? And that's the problem, and that's where we sort of almost need to almost hold the chapter up and say, what are you going to do with this? Because it feels like a building that should be used for something, but needs to be used for the right purpose. Again, I think the archive, I think in the first exceptional place, there was talk of something being fitted around in the workshop, in the works department, but then they said they couldn't be used because it was being used by something else. In the new plan, it just says Leadenhall, but it doesn't say archive. So it's still a bit of a grey area where this archive is going to go. We definitely need one, because we need to store these products, all these things, hundreds and hundreds of years old artifacts that need protection. We just need to put it in the right place, because the last thing I would want in my head is if we pass this, and as we said, 10, 15 years down the line, this building floods and we lose some serious artifacts. It might never happen, but it might as well. I mean, raising a building by a metre, you would hope not. But also then, aesthetically, how's it going to look? Totally agree with what Councillor Siddars was saying as well. If they made the building look a bit more softer, a bit more sort of architecturally pleasing, maybe, things could be looked at differently. But overall, yeah, we are I think as the council and we're only a consulting part of this, we have a say, but not as much as we probably would like. It'd be really good if the parties came together. Would that happen? I'm unsure. Yeah, I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you. I think as much as we know that potentially it is the archive, we can only comment on what is before us, because I don't, although it's implied that it's for archive use, it's not actually listed. Jenny?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, definitely. Thank you all for coming in. I can understand why you feel so passionate. It's a horrible position to be in when a building's been left to decay, which is, like Annie said, same thing that happened with Old Sarum. We've witnessed it, haven't we, over the years. They left it and left it and left it, hoping that they could swoop in, let's do this with it, and everyone's going to be okay with it. And everybody isn't. Compromise, where you said that the dean and chapter haven't been very likely to have a conversation, never mind a compromise, that worries me. If they're so sure of what they want doing, I don't understand why they won't do this. And the thought of a solar panel farm in the close, I can think of nothing worse. I certainly wouldn't want to visit it, never mind live near it. I think that's very excessive for the type of space that it is. So certain bits that other councillors have made, I took on board, and some of it I'm very adamant, no.
Atticle, you want to come back?
Just very quickly, I just wanted to say, I mean, although we say about compromise, I don't think that is in our merit to make that comment here. We have to make a decision, either we are support or we object to it. And if we do object, what would be the reason? Of course, in a finer world, compromise is much better, but that is something that I'm afraid we cannot point out at the moment. We just have to either agree or disagree, and why we disagree.
Yeah, I want to take the opportunity to thank all of you for coming and speaking, and I hope that you feel that you have actually been listened to. You want to come back in?
At risk of getting it very wrong, although it may assist, and I stand to be corrected as always. As I understand it, for those of you particularly concerned about the building, which I too have been, having known it from all my childhood and as a governor, we did understand on relinquishing the site back to the Dean and Chapter that they were to undertake emergency and immediate repairs. And every day that I walk past it, it is with real despondency and despair. However, I do understand, and this is where I might be corrected, that I think it's the Society for the Protection of Ancient Buildings have issued a notice to them that, that this is a building at risk. Obviously, there is a statutory duty on anybody who has ownership of listed buildings to maintain it to certain standards, and they have completely failed to do so. And it is standing there with utter neglect. This is not the solution to that neglect, tempting though that might seem. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Right, so we've got the, we've got some more people. Oh, yes, come forward.
Hello, I'm Lloyd Slater. I just want to point out something that happened at a meeting run by the Dean and Chapter for residents called Residents Briefing. When they gave up the school, I asked, knowing the answer, but I asked the chapter clerk, what listing is it? Isn't it a national monument? And she said, I don't know, which was a bit of a shock. So I interjected and said, well, I do. It's grade 1. What are you going to do with it? How are you going to maintain it? And she assured me that the Dean and Chapter would keep the heating on, would maintain the building until it was put to use again. Does that sound like the truth to you? Doesn't to me. So it was either willful neglect or they were lying or what? I don't know. None of us know the reason for the neglect because the Dean and Chapter won't tell us. And the Dean and Chapter also refuse to talk or correspond with the Close Preservation Society. So talk of compromise, we would love to discuss it with them, but they adamantly, repeatedly refuse. Thank you.
Thank you. The other gentleman, you wanted to speak. Oh, you're okay. Right, so we recognise that there's no verified scale images in the plans. It's not in keeping with the surrounding buildings. There's a wrong location for a solar farm. And I have a vague recollection that they said something about putting the archive in the Bishop's Palace at one point. So why have they exhausted that? Not that we can do that. We can only comment on what we've got. And obviously we've learnt more because you've given us more information and there's more information there. They've obviously gone back and revised the plans from before. So I guess it's down to us to decide what we're going to do with it this time. Obviously we have learnt more. I think all my colleagues are scratching their heads and thinking hard and seriously about how we manage this. It is a shame that the Dean and Chapter haven't come forward to us because the Cathedral Master Plan is quite some years old, so it'd be nice if they came and consulted with us and gave us an update, because that would make us better informed as what they plan. So I think we should write a letter to the Dean and Chapter. If everybody's content, we write a letter to the Dean and Chapter and request that we have a proper update of what the master plan is, and particularly with Leadenhall in mind, of what they will do to make sure it's remedied and looked after.
Well, are you proposing that as an addition to our response to this? Or, yeah, so first of all, we have to work out our response
We need to respond. So I was thinking that we object because there's no verified scale images. The flooding is a problem. It's not in keeping with the surrounding buildings, and it's the wrong location for a solar farm. No verified scale images, not in keeping with the surrounding buildings, the wrong location for a solar farm. Whether they're getting extra money because they're putting a solar farm in, I don't know. Article. Can you put your mic on?
I think it's also very important to include the almost 200 objections as well to be taken into consideration.
We can note the 200, we can note the very many objections from members of the public. We can do that, yeah, okay.
So is everybody happy to object on the grounds that I've just put forward and noting the 200 plus residents' objections?
Do members have any other grounds of objection that they would like us to include?
By us objecting, does that mean we're saying it should go away and never come back?
No, because what it means is we object to the plan that they've put forward.
Right.
They're welcome to bring another revised one back.
And then the other question I wanted to ask is, we talked about discussion, consultation. Is there any role that we can play in brokering?
I've asked this in the past. I've asked this of senior officers in the past and been told, no, it's not really our place to do that. I did about at least a year ago.
Okay. So, right, we have no verified scaled images, not in keeping, wrong location for a solar farm. I'll come forward.
Flood?
Oh, yeah, the flood.
The flood,
Yeah.
and the 200 objections.
Yeah.
Yes, I would point out that my own garden is prone to flood from time to time, not back onto the Nadder up in Harnham. And it's flooded a lot more in the last few years. I mean, my house is built up, so I'm not worried about it. You just get used to losing plants, but it's going to become more of a problem, and I would like to understand more about how that's been taken into account, really.
Okay, right, to move this on, we have quick. Be quick, because we've been
Sorry.
talking about this nearly an hour.
Just very briefly, the Environment Agency currently has it listed as a medium level flood. However, from 2036 to 2049, that is elevated to a high level flood. And that is the top level that the Environment Agency give.
Thank you. Right. Briefly, Councillor Saddard, then Mac, then Phil. No, Phil first, actually.
All I was going to say is in the recent flood risk assessment, it's got all the levels of flood risk in there, and that's the reason why they're saying about higher in it. But
Okay,
it's
thank
still
you.
risk.
Yeah, the raising flood risk. Mac, quickly.
I wanted to say the same, that they will tell you, as with the documents they've submitted, that the reason that it's higher up is they have addressed the flood risk, right? I think that's what Phil just said. So I don't think we can put that as our objection.
Okay.
Because that's been dealt with according to what's on there. So.
Andrew.
I just reiterate those 2 points just made there. I think the flood bit has already been done. The point I would make would be to soften we think it's not in keeping. I think the point is we think it can be improved to make it better in keeping.
Okay, can I also suggest then we add that we don't think there's enough flood protection? Although they may have alleviated it, it's not enough. Is everybody happy with that?
I'm not sure we know that. We're not the flood engineers.
How do they know? They stick their finger in the air, don't they, and make these decisions
they're
of
the
how much
experts,
risk we're going to have, if ever. Yes, lady at the back. That's.
My neighbour who lives next door to Leadenhall, when we had the really big flood, was it in 2014? We've had smaller ones since then, but she could not get out of her house. The house was high, so it did not flood, but underground, the water did not come from the river. It came from up, and it was so deep, it wasn't true. And I have loads of photographs about that. Okay.
Thank you for adding that to our quandary. I don't think that whatever flood mitigation they've done will be enough. Are we happy with the suggestions? Annie, you've noted it down for me.
Okay, so I think we're saying it's the wrong location, it's not a suitable location for a solar farm. We're noting that there are more than 200 letters of objection from the public. We're saying that there's not enough flood protection. What was the first one? I'm trying. No, verified. Verified. I couldn't read my own shorthand back. Sorry, I'm getting a bit slapdash. So no verified scale images. So it's not really. It's not really possible for us to form a view on that. It's not helpful. I don't know whether we can't really, it's not really a planning objection that I can raise, I suppose, but I am disappointed that nobody from the cathedral has come to talk to us about it. And I would. I think
we'll
like
write. We'll write separately. And say that we want them to come and give us a proper.
Okay, and the other
we'll
thing,
do that after.
And the other thing is it's not in keeping with the surrounding buildings. Okay, we got all that.
Yeah, we're happy with that. Everybody happy? That's what we're voting on. Those comments going on is a no objection. Is an objection, not a no objection. Yeah. Everybody happy for objection?
Sweetie, hands.
Show of hands, please.
Hands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yep, and against. And sustained. Yeah, that's it. Sustained 2.
Thank you very much.
Do you want to do the thing about the notes now? Just to know if you want letters and stuff.
Yeah, and hands up for writing a letter to the Dean and Chapter and getting them to give us a presentation. Yeah.
That's passed too.
Yeah, that's passed.
Yeah, I'll draft it too. Yeah.
Thank you all for coming. John, I guess you're here for something you'd like to speak on. Would you like me to bring it forward so you don't have to wait, or do you want to stay to the end? Okay, so if you take to the microphone and tell us which ones, then we'll.
I think it is the first on the list, I think.
Okay.
It is first on the list. St. Francis in Stratford.
Carry on in my absence, I need to use the toilet.
Mr. Mayor, is it a highway improvement form or application I'm looking for here? Is it a highway improvement form or is it an application I'm looking at?
Sorry, I can't quite hear you.
Do you want to talk about a highway improvement form or about a planning
There are
application?
two items. One is to do with, I think it's a traffic order in Balmoral Road, and the other one is a request from a resident to remove parking spaces in Victoria Road.
Yes, so they're highway improvement forms. Right, which one do you want to start with? Balmoral Road, go.
Okay, this was raised by a resident about a month ago, and I spoke to a couple of other residents in the area. There is a bus stop which is located at a T-junction at the junction of Balmoral Road and Thistlebarrow Road. It's really badly placed. The photograph on the top left doesn't show it quite as clearly as it needs to, but that bus stop is photographed from Thistlebarrow Road, which is at a point where it's a T-junction. You've got lots of vehicles that park outside their own houses, which they're entitled to. There's no sort of clear bus stop there other than the post. I think there's a dropped curve with access to somebody's private property right next to it. And further down the road, if you look at the picture on the right, there is a great stretch of road there about 30 meters away, which would be an ideal location for a bus stop. There are very few residents parking there, and it's very close to the current location of the bus stop. It just seems a far better place because at the T-junction, the buses find it quite hard to turn because you've got vehicles parked all over the place. It causes unnecessary congestion. Some informal consultation. There were a couple of neighbours right on the corner, happened to be outside chatting, and I mentioned to them about the location of the bus stop, and they said, yes, it's ridiculous because the buses can't get around often because there are vehicles parked there. It seems that all it needs is a bus stop moved 30 yards down the road, and you've got a lovely big open space there that isn't going to interfere with residents or prevent buses from going around that sharp corner on Thistlebarrow Road. So I'm just asking that's supported.
It seems to make perfect sense, John. Does anybody have any issues with that?
Happy to support this. This is on the R4 route, as John is very well aware, bus I use. You do have to breathe in when those buses go down that road because it is so narrow. So I think it's an entirely sensible move. And yeah, I'm happy to support this.
Anybody else? Right, shall we say all in favour?
Can I get a second?
Second it.
Yeah.
Attica, are you seconding?
Yeah.
Okay. Right, all in favour? Yeah, okay. You got that, Andy? Right, and the next.
It's Victoria Road, you said, yeah.
The next one has been raised by several residents in my ward, and it's to do with a couple of parking spaces which are at the bottom of Victoria Road. Two reasons for the objections. There are a couple of residents who believe it's dangerous to have cars parked there anyway because it's on a bend and vehicles coming down Mobley Road turning on that bend at the bottom of the road. You see the van coming out there, they have to sweep out onto the other side of the road. So if you're approaching from the direction that this photograph's taken, there's possibility of head-on collision. But more significantly, I believe planning has been approved to convert Victoria Lodge, which is currently a hotel, it's going to become a dentist's surgery. And although, as we all know, you don't spend long in the dentist and there won't necessarily be more than half a dozen people in there at any time, it will increase the flow of traffic emerging at that junction and making it more dangerous. I'm surprised no one's raised it before because, I mean, I've used those parking spaces myself occasionally because it's just a convenient place to stop. But it's not a great location for two parking spaces. There's ample residence parking further up Mobley Road, and I've had some quite strongly worded and detailed letters from a couple of residents requesting that they be removed.
Oh, sorry, Jim. Any questions? Article?
I think John summed it up quite nicely, and I think it won't be any loss, and I will certainly support removing those spaces.
Andrew?
Although it might raise a concern
Then
in the
Al.
future.
I'm
Thanks.
familiar, ditto.
Thanks. Is this a different issue to the issue that came up at LHFIG earlier this week? Because this is the
Did
same
it?
area, isn't it?
It did.
Because that was basically putting in double yellows.
I think there's a request for double yellow lines in Victoria Road. That's at the other end.
Oh, okay. Fair enough.
Because that was causing a blockage in the road, which provides access to the parking at the flats at the bottom, all the rest of it, emergency vehicles and so forth.
That's right.
It's almost as if the residents in that area have suddenly woken up to all the parking issues and are reporting them, quite rightly so, and they've processed the forms. So I've just come along to support it because although I didn't submit the forms myself, I completely agree that it needed to be supported here. And I was just here in case people had questions about the applications that I could answer on their behalf.
Phil?
If we're taking the spaces away, do we need to put double yellows there to stop people parking there?
I'm not sure. Are the yellow lines there already where the spaces do not exist? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, well, sorry, it does say that, does it? Request a
Yeah,
double
so they
park.
want double yellow lines
Okay,
there.
yeah, that's what I
Yeah.
agree with, yeah, okay.
Yeah. Is everybody happy with this? Yeah, happy to support.
Thank you.
Is that everything from John? Okay, well, always nice to see you.
It's a planning table.
Okay, right, the first one on the planning table is 253 Castle Road, one-storey porch extension to the front of the property. Everyone happy to support? Yeah. Car park at Five Rivers to crown and raise. Should we do all the trees all together? Is there anybody here got any objection with the trees? No. Oh, hands up for all trees to be done on block? Yeah. Everything that's got a tree in it is all okay.
So it's, yes. So that's Silverwood. That's the first, okay? Yeah, Silverwood. Yeah.
The next one is Silverwood, Thistlebarrow Road. We should have got John to stay because it's just down the road from him. Single story rear extension, roof dormer extension with roof light to side slope. Did anybody look at this article?
It's my ward anyway, so I haven't had the chance to see, but is there any objection from resident or?
No comment there.
Yes, support.
No comments. Right, the next one is 291 Castle Road, Hudson's Field Pavilion. Proposed installation of single-story shed-style enclosure to the self-service dog wash. I have got no objection to that whatsoever. Yeah, fully support that one. Right, Downs Way, proposed single-story flat roof rear extension. No, I haven't got a problem with this one. Everybody happy? Yeah.
Sorry.
Right, now we're moving to Milford Hill. The demolition of a single-story structure to the side, a single and two-story extension to the rear of the property, and erection of a side extension, two-story extension, and the addition of a two-story rear extension. I think they're building on three sides by the sound of it. It does sound like a lot. There's no residents' comments. There's
No,
nothing from
nothing.
conservation. No. No comment.
It's a house, it's the last house as you go up Milford Hill,
Before the bridge.
Next to the gated power pole.
next to the, yeah. There's nothing, that's fine. I can't see any problems with it at all. I'm
Okay.
happy for it.
Do we want to support it or no comment? No comment. Yep. Trees. Right, Wilton Road, are we on? Yeah. 88 Wilton Road, conversion of an existing detached outbuilding to provide mixed use of a short-term holiday let and ancillary use to the main house dwelling. Can we have a look at the street view of that? Just down from Canadian Avenue. Sounds like it. Yeah. And we can't, there's not enough of a view from that building to see what impact it would have on the others. Because it's a difference to having a shed to having somebody staying.
Yeah, have you got an aerial view of it? You know, a Google Earth view of it?
Jenny, do you have anything to?
I'm here. Yeah, I did take a wander down and I did have a look, and from as much as you've had no neighbours' comments, if I was their neighbour, I wouldn't be at all happy because, like you said, it does encroach.
So Chairman, if I may, if I can just say, although we have no comment, but we do advise that there is no loss of privacy.
Yeah.
Caution that there is no loss of privacy or any parking.
Yeah. So we're objecting for privacy concerns.
No,
really.
I don't think we can object.
Al, go for it.
It's a bit close to the boundary line, right next to it.
Yeah, I think the closest because of where that building is, and it looks like there's only windows on the roof. That's what it's looking at in that plan to me. That there's a fence here, and their current one is up. But yeah, the discontinuous is that the roof is missing.
And previously, we've objected if it's closer.
The only thing to note is that I don't know when this Google picture was taken. They could have done it in a bit, but yeah. 2020, so it's 5 years old.
This will be setting precedent as well, the other area, so.
We can't see looking down on that, can we? Why haven't we got an aerial
I'll
looked
try.
at?
In fairness, looking at it, that looks like the building. There is a roof on this, actually, so yeah.
It's all a bit squished in, isn't it? That's what I want, yeah. No, I don't. Right, that's what we want to see, yeah. Trying to see that.
So it looks like there's a window here facing into the garden, and the two that they've done are on the roof.
May I make a comment, Chair?
So does that mean that there's going to be a sort of soft shoe shuffle going on to get in and out if you've got holidaymakers staying there? That doesn't look right to me.
May I make a comment?
Yeah, of course.
It seems unlikely. Have they actually said, I didn't see it, that they said it's going to be Airbnb. It looks like the short-term lets. What I think they mean is they're just going to do a rental. They're just properly, you know. Yeah, but who's going on holiday with respect on the Wilton Road? I think they're maximising their investment by having a nice
Yeah.
buy-to-let,
But I
build-to-let on the back.
think the
which is
I
their
think we
right.
should object because the vicinity to the bus stop and the bus movement, I don't think that that is practical at all.
Yeah.
And parking. Yeah. So everybody happy to object?
Well, I'm not happy because we do have a policy that we need more housing. And I don't think this is, if I really believe that they were doing Airbnb, I'd think, yes, you're right. But I think.
But it does say short-term holiday
I know,
let, so.
okay.
This is a sweeter version of Airbnb, sweeter
Yeah, well, I'm
wording
not
of
sure.
Airbnb.
Okay. And the other thing is, now I've looked properly at from the above, you found Google Earth, it doesn't look like they're increasing the footprint. So the
It's
impact
just
on the
replacing
neighbours
what's
is
there,
nothing.
but no, yeah.
Yeah, so on that respect, I'd let it go.
Al?
It does feel as though we're going through a list of things that we might be able to object to. I think I agree with Mac. It's basically exactly the same footprint as the previous building. Parking, yeah, maybe. Looking at the scale plans, they've actually got 2 cars out the front on off-street parking, which might be a bit optimistic. Which one is it? Yeah.
It's not gonna lend itself
If
to.
you go to the location of site plan, the second one from the bottom. So they've got 2 cars off the front. Yeah.
Yeah, in the map view, there's the garden, it's just a garden, but they might have made it into a drive before the start. We don't know what it actually looks like now. If they had 2 in the drive, then you could put it in there. That's what that.
I think we
plan
might
said.
be being a bit harsh here.
Do you think so?
I think no comment, to be honest.
Sorry, that was what I was going to suggest, to make sure that they are actually going to convert some of that front garden into parking. If it's already written in there, it sounds as though it's taken care of. If it's not written in there, we should say there isn't sufficient parking for it.
It's a hard one because in the plans, but we don't know if we've got a 5-year-old image. They might have made their front garden into a drive right now. We won't know that. Their plan suggests that they have.
Well, is there something more specifically in any of the other documents that says their plan is to, so they've got a location and site plan, something in there, parking, there we go. If you just zoom that in at the bottom.
I'll download it so you can look at it.
No, you can just use the 4 little arrows at the bottom.
Proposal is for a studio holiday let, which would only likely attract 1 additional vehicle to the site.
And Jenny said that the access at the moment doesn't already include the 2 parking spaces, so. Yeah. I'm just worried about the closeness to the bus stop. That's my biggest fear, is there's going to be too, like you say, too much of a shuffle. And
I think we should just leave it as no comment. I mean, this will go, unless somebody calls this in, this will go to a delegated officer decision at Wiltshire, and if they're not happy with the parking, I'm sure they'd refuse it.
you could ask Ricky to call it in.
I wouldn't call it in, to be honest.
Okay, then no comment. Everybody happy for no comment?
No, I think we need to put something there, although we reserve some concern. But I mean, although we no comment, but I think it's fair because we had a quite long discussion. We need to put something of our concern.
Should we put that we have concerns re traffic movements
Traffic movement
Yeah.
and any loss
And the
of
bus.
privacy.
and loss of privacy? Right, next. Brunel House, Brunel Road, replacement of existing tall flower silos. If it's a replacement and it's Nicholas and Harris, I don't think we can really object because otherwise that would be the supply for bread for everybody, wouldn't it? Did you want to say something, Mac? No? No comment. Everybody happy for no comment? We're okay, we'll support this. Everyone happy to support it? Flower grain silos, yes. "12 Minster Street, pitter pitter illuminated signs." I did look at this. I didn't see any issue with it. Al?
Shop front policy, I'd say, just to make sure they're not too loud.
Just to make sure they adhere to it. I think the signage is already up at the front, isn't it? It's just they want to do it on, is it Silver Street side? Are you happy with it as it's
No, well,
yeah.
Well, ideally, I'm sorry, Councillor. Ideally, you should have declared an interest on this one, conflict of interest, because that's what happens on their planning application. So, yeah. I think Al is right because we say no comment, but to observe the shop front policy. So that's the thing. We should say that.
Yeah. Yes, please observe the shop front policy. Next we have Phase 2 land at Netherhampton Road. Oh, Annie, there's nobody here. That's unusual.
Oh,
So, yeah, I've looked at this. Per se, in terms of what they're proposing, it's no real difference to what is before. However, as we know from Chapelgate on the north side of Netherhampton Road, this is the developer that's trying to wriggle out of its, sill commitments. In Wilton Gate, this planning permission, there's nothing in the documents so far as I can see. Obviously, there's a huge number of documents. I've done my best to flick through what I think are all the relevant ones, but I can't find anything in those documents which affirms their commitment to paying the sill that would be due on this particular project. So it leaves open, I think, as it stands, them trying to wriggle out at a later date. We know to a certain extent that Wilton Gate and Chapelgate have to be treated as separate things, but I think it would be remiss of us to point out that it would be rather foolish of the council to approve this only to find a year later Vistry come back and say, oh, we can't pay the sill.
I think it's the section 106 that's going to be the problem, not the sill. I think the sill's payments have basically been made on this site now. I stand to be corrected.
Well, I don't know.
I think that there is a reference to further section 106 negotiations in that paper.
But I think we should point out, say, we only, we don't have any objections to what's been put forward per se. However, we think it's beholden on the council to make sure that all 106 and SIL negotiations that are outstanding, there is a commitment for Vistry to reaffirm that they are fully committed to paying that and will not try and wriggle out of it at a later date.
Can I just explain to members that in this paperwork there is, and I just read all my notes, there is a distinct suggestion that Vistry are not going to be doing this development. It says that they've already got permission for this development. They've submitted a new planning application, which I think basically involves changes of one or two house types. And this is said to be to suit the future, a potential future developer. And I think the word in Harnham is that they're going to hand it over to another, guess which, developer of mass housing. And I don't understand why they're doing this if it's not because they're going to try and knock down the Section 106 agreement, which they'd agreed to formally, because we know that they're trying to get out of their Section 106 obligations. But my understanding of this, and I think Andy's been looking into this, is that if it goes to a completely new planning application, which in effect this is, it's not reserved matters or anything like that. If it goes to a completely new planning application, then you have to renegotiate the Section 106, not the SIL, because I think the SIL has already been paid to us, but we need to check that. But it's the Section 106 that could be renegotiated by the new developer. So who knows how these people sort themselves out, but it would be a completely new planning application, although what they would do would be carry on with the development, but with another developer and some tweaked house types.
Oh.
Our comment from the 23rd of October pretty much says that. It says concerns about SIL and Section 106 provision.
Okay, do we just reaffirm our comment from then and just resubmit it?
Well, I'd also like to put in that, as you'll see in the comments, Salisbury and Wilton Swifts have said that they think that, they seem to think that they were going to get Swift bricks in all the houses, and this has now been reduced to boxes. They want Swift bricks put in every house, and they want the installation confirmed by an ecologist, because what happens is the builders say they'll put them in and then they don't. And this area of Harnham is perfect to expand the existing Swift colony, and we all know how endangered they are. And it's highly likely there would be a good take-up by Swifts because it's already a very suitable location. We've got some at Netherhampton, and we've got some in the East Harnham, in the West Harnham estate, the existing estate. So I would strongly endorse the Swifts group's comments. The Cranbourne Chase area of outstanding beauty, or whatever they call themselves these days, are very worried about dark skies and the lighting intruding over the skyline there, and I think we ought to endorse their comments. Somebody's saying on here that it's going to generate 2,400 daily car trips. So we will need to keep a close eye on any negotiations for transport fund, highway funding. People have drawn attention to the lack of visitor parking spaces in the road layout, not the residents' parking, but the visitor spaces. And this has been a big issue on the Wellworthy site, where you get parking all over the place with visitors because they just haven't designed those in. So I think we ought to ask them to look again at the amount of visitor parking spaces.
Okay. Al, Mac and Andrew.
Just for information, it has been called in by the Inter-Councillor Pauline Church on grounds of environmental and highway impact.
So should we agree with Pauline Church then? Yeah.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I wanted to say, not
Yeah.
the calling in bit, but surely the environmental, it must have, the first time this came up with developer A, surely that was an objection then, 400 extra houses, can we take it in?
They do
Harlow?
like
No.
to push the boundaries.
So,
We've objected to this all the way along, but it's gone through, and now all we can do is object to things that we think are bad design and could
well, that was
improve
what
it.
I was going to ask you, Annie. Can we continue to object things we've already objected to?
Yes.
We can.
Yeah.
We can just reiterate.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
just reiterate it,
Yeah.
and then you can expand on the
Because-
more knowledge from other people.
Because
Yes,
there's
that's fine.
nothing new for me to change my mind otherwise.
No.
So we object to the same ground
So-
as we objected previously.
Yeah, so I think the wording should be object in the same way we always have, but acknowledging the fact that the Wiltshire Councillors called it in and the Swifts and.
Can we,
I
can we,
think we
can we
just-
make
sorry, Chairman.
specific points
I think we
about what
just-
we're objecting to?
I think we just say we object to the same, we reiterate our previous comment and maybe include what Al just said about Councillor Paul in Church.
Yeah, I think that would be sufficient. Because if we've objected if none of the things have changed, the bits that we've objected to in the past are the same. So we can just say that we agree with Councillor Church and the Swift as an addition, if we didn't already agree with the Swifts before.
Are we going to say anything about section 106?
That was in the original, according to Andy. Andrew?
Yeah, I think we need to be specific about the things that we objected to before that we're carrying over as my first point. My second point is there's going to be two sort of play areas in this. And I think even if we didn't cover it before, I think we say that they need to consult with DIGS over accessibility elements within both of those play areas.
Sorry, I'm just trying to make the point that this is a completely new planning application in planning terms. It's not we can continue to object for reasons that we submitted previously, but it's no use referring back to a previous planning application because this is a new one. This is a new full application.
Which is why I'm saying we need to be specific.
We need to be very specific about what it is we object to.
Yeah, so there's nothing wrong with us pulling out the previous list and seeing which ones are still relevant or which ones aren't.
Because I looked at this through our neighbourhood development plan, and there's quite a few bits for it, doesn't it? It says 36 affordable housing with no real reason why it's not hitting our 40%. They're tearing down trees and they're not replacing them. We've got a rule that's 1 tree per 10 metres, which they've got no actual amounts of the street trees. They just refer street trees. They don't say the amounts they're putting in. And along with that ecological, the actual report on here is out of date, and it says within it that this is 2 years and it was done in, I think, 2020. So they're just using something that isn't referred, but that's by me where they've called it in, maybe on that point. But yeah, most of the stuff I read is quite contradicted to most of the NDP that we have. And like I say, because it's a new one, it does give us room.
Beth, what have you got so far, or are you confused?
I have got SCC strongly endorsed the comments made by Salisbury Swift Group. SCC endorsed the comments by Cranbourne Chase. SCC asked that they look at the number of visitor spaces. SCC agree with Pauline Church's comments, and SCC reiterate previous objection comments. But I am slightly confused about where we're going with this. Oh, and Diggs, yep.
They can't to have facilities for It doesn't specify what's in the local centre. That word, those words, local centre, can mean all sorts of things to all sorts of people, can't?
So my understanding is it's going to be a shop. Because what was originally was a local centre, which wasn't fully defined in the previous plan. So the idea of a community centre was ditched in favour effectively of a Nissa style shop.
I got them there.
Andy?
Yeah.
Right. Can you two make sure you've got all the same comments? Because
Yep.
Just for the minutes, I need to know the exact wording of what you're going to vote on. So Andy's points that he's raised, are we including them in the comments that you're going to vote on? The trees and...
Yeah, so my ones are the trees is that they've got their break-in policy 1, which is that we require 1 tree per 10 meters of road. So we could say that they're conflicting with our policy 1, along with they have no tree management plan for any of the trees that they're actually putting in on there. That they just say pruning. Oh, sorry. Sorry. You get that, yeah. And the other one, like I said, that's mainly policy 1 I read, because I said there's 233 documents in this. And the other bit I did really point out was the 36% affordable housing, with no real reason why they're not meeting our 40%. There is no explanation in any of the bits that I read regarding that. And they are also, sorry, this is the last one, 32 trees is what they're taking down on the site, and they have no plan to replace them, which are again policy 1 says that any trees taken down should be replaced. If not, they should pay for it to be replaced in another part of the city.
I think one thing I would really, I know it's probably a small point, but I would really like to see us trying to hold developers. I know it's not in, we weren't allowed to have it in our neighbourhood plan because it wasn't in Wiltshire's plan. But I would like to see us trying to hold them to having integrated Swift bricks rather than these boxes that they tack on. It costs 38 quid per property and they're too tight to do it. And it makes such a difference to the longevity of anything you put up there for wildlife. And I would like to strongly endorse the request for an integral Swift bricks and for their installation to be confirmed by an ecologist as requested by Salisbury and Wilton Swift. So I think it's really important for this site in particular because it is so well suited.
So are we happy with everything that's been said? Are we happy to vote on it, or do we need to hear it again? Right, we're all happy, right? Are we, right, we're going with the objection. Yep, all in favour. There we go. Right, next we've got 103 Bouverie Avenue, which is a replacement dwelling. I believe this is because the resident is disabled? Yes. Andrew?
Yeah, it's our area, Lenny. Effectively, it is a bit of an expansion. So what was the garage has turned into an indoor building, but it is for a younger individual who is severely disabled, and effectively it's turning it into a long-term, care home for that person to live in with live-in carers. It's Bouverie Avenue South. They're all big buildings on there. They're on quite big plots of land. It won't unduly, outscale its plot. So given what it is for, supporting a disabled person through their life, I'm in favour of it.
All in favour?
There's no comment from anybody.
No. Yeah, all in favour, support. Essex Square window replacement. I didn't see anything wrong with this. I don't think there was anything controversial with windows, but yeah. Sorry? Because sometimes you have to do it because they have to be in keeping with the things. So yeah, but they are slightly. It's a different design. But I mean, I don't think that there's anything ugly about them.
I couldn't see a picture. I hate the fact that people are always ripping out the original windows and putting really ugly ones. But I don't know, that's within our policy. But if there is a policy, because it even has to get planning, then surely there is.
Well, I just think that the window people, if it's too much of a different change, that people do complain. So maybe they didn't need it. I did, yeah. I can't see anything wrong with it. I said,
5 replacement windows in the front side.
yeah. I've got no objection. Anybody else?
Thing is, Mac, we do have it for the conservation area. That's different. But I don't.
Maybe
think
they,
this is-
maybe they didn't actually need to do it. Maybe it's just, yeah, happy to support. No comment. Two Andrews Way, Harnham, single-story front extension.
I took a look and it's just little things.
I didn't think they had to bring it to us if it was bigger than, if it was smaller than 3 meters. So I'm a little bit confused, but happy to support it.
Yeah.
I didn't see a problem with it. Yeah. '72 Downsway, demolition of rear conservatory, single-story rear extension and associated works. I didn't see a problem with this. I looked at this. Anybody else? Support. Mobley Road, 2-story extension and associated internal alterations. I put support the neighbours' comments because I did notice there are some comments on here.
I didn't read this one. I got bogged down with so many other things.
Yeah, the lack of daylight was
You
one
should
of the
make a
things.
comment about the grammar.
Mac the grammar, please. Right. I just think we should support the neighbours' comments. Graham Oliver Gallery, 97 Brown Street, to install services to a bedroom to create an ensuite. Is this because it's LBC? Is that why this is here? Is it a listed building? That was the only thing I could see. Yeah, because there's no documents. So it's just because it's a listed building. But I think it's reasonable to have an ensuite. Right, Douglas Haig Road, first floor rear extension, pitched roof to ground floor rear and new roof light. No comment? Everybody happy? No comment. Right, Balmoral Road. Now, Balmoral Road it's an application to change of use to a children's care facility. I'd like to defer this because A, it's in late business. So we're going to have exactly the same problem as we did with Leadenhall and the one that came before at Christie Miller, because the residents haven't had time to comment. So I think we should be kicking this back to Wiltshire and saying, please bring it to us next time, or let us put it so that we can do some consultation. And then Jenny, you'd be able to consult with people oh, no, it's not yours. No. St. Francis.
Well, I agree with you. We should defer it. The only thing I did look at this, the only thing that came across my mind was they're going to have more people, caring, and there's a garage and a space for a car behind, and a bit like the Wilton Road thing we talked about, they could actually create another parking space off the road using some space from their front garden. And I think it would be wise for them to do that so that they don't burden the road with more cars when they could sacrifice a bit of their front garden, because they have a decent back garden as well.
Yeah.
Which doesn't seem to be in the plans.
So,
but I agree, it's worth
Yeah.
deferring anyway.
Article,
Just as a point of
we're
principle.
happy to defer it. Yeah.
So we've got this highway improvement for Upper Middle Lower Street in Harlem.
So we've got this Lower Street heavily used by pedestrians using the foot and cycle path and to access town path.
I spoke to Becky Rosin. I bumped into her in Harlem today, and she said she was coming into this meeting with Brian Dalton to talk about it. So I don't quite know what's gone wrong, but I absolutely support this. And it's something I've tried to raise with Wiltshire Transport before. And I've been told that they'd have to do a lot of traffic measuring, which seems to be a reason not to do things. But I think this is, Andrew, we've talked about this possibly becoming a rat run, haven't we, when all the new houses are occupied, for people trying to cut through and avoid some of the jams for the gyratory. So I think this is very important and we should support it.
Andrew, do you want to say anything other than that?
Well, just very briefly to iterate, I support it. There's a wiggle on the road, and buses go down there, and there are bits where there aren't pavements, and you do feel a little bit vulnerable walking down there. If a car was to come, a little bit quickly, 25 to 30, going the other way.
Yeah, I'm happy to support this too. Yeah. Everybody happy to support?
So we got first and second. Who have we
Oh,
got?
first and
Sorry, just so
second.
Beth knows.
Who's proposing
support?
it?
Oh,
And
Andrew
Andrew seconding it,
support, yeah.
or, all in favour? Yeah. Right, Fairfield Road. The faded white lines on the pavement in Fairfield Road. So Fairfield Road, for those that may not know, they're the ones that don't actually have the curbs. They just have like the tarmac with a line. Looks like they just want it repainted. Support, happy to support. Al, do you want to speak?
Just as a matter of procedure, I guess this was brought by the previous member because it says, have you contacted your Wiltshire councillor? And nobody's spoken to me.
Okay, well, things are slow. We do know.
Yeah, it does actually say January 25 at the top, so I guess it was the former member.
Okay.
But yeah, happy to support this.
Yeah, happy to support. All in favour? Do you want proposals?
First and second, yeah.
Proposed by Al then. Seconded by Atticle.
Exeter Street. We've done that one with the mayor, so on Exeter Street. We've done Victoria on the Parkwood Gym, Salisbury. There's two. Yeah, that's.
Again, it says, have you been in touch with your Wiltshire councillor? No. Unless it was a previous member again. But yeah, I'm happy to support this. I used to live across the road in Dual Close, and trying to get across those that roundabout, people come. It's 40 miles an hour.
Yeah.
People coming it far too fast.
Yeah.
So yeah, it is a concern, and particularly if you're trying to cross over from the Parkwood corner across to Bishop Down Farm Estate, the foliage does actually sort of obscure your view and the view of motor vehicles coming. So yeah, I'd be quite happy to push this to LHFIG for a traffic assessment.
He's only asking for an assessment.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, we'll put it to LHFIG then. So we've got a proposer, seconder. I'll second it if you want. Oh, Amazing Fantasy. No?
No, yeah, this is first. We've got a tactile.
Oh, tactile.
report.
Oh. I've got the things in the wrong order. Right, tactile paving.
Yeah.
Annie.
It's me.
Oh, it's Andy, actually.
So we received an email from Paul Shattuck regarding tactile paving at the junction of High Street, from changing it to the grey to the red colour, which is here. It's to do with, if I remember here, the change would be best practice guidance for the transport to support visually impaired. So it's basically a comment from us to Wiltshire Council. Obviously, it goes against turning them grey into these red ones, but to make it actually.
I'm
legal
more
for
than
it.
happy to support that. At the moment, they're the white light, the yellowy limestone ones, but if you put red ones down, it's easier for visually impaired people to see them. Well, the same as it does the other end. Everywhere else, most of the other places have got red. I'm surprised actually they did the sand coloured in Fission Street.
It does say on here that Wiltshire Council want our views to regard to changing it to red. They view that a distinct approach was taken on the High Street to lessen the visual impact towards the cathedral gate. So if they think it's going to be I think what they're saying is they think it's a bit of a blot on the landscape,
Well,
and
it's
be
it-
better to have the
yeah.
other colours.
So yeah, the report goes on. So it's basically about the visual or the use. It's like it says the best practice guide for these is to have it red for visually impaired. We've got them with grey, so they're asking for our opinion too. Just so I clarify, they're just taking ours as an opinion. That is very much yes. That is what they're putting as the trade-off for our comment towards it. But they probably make a decision. But yeah, they're just looking for our comment. I did attach the original email from Paul Shattuck, which he puts a lot around that in regard that this would be across the city for them. These little slabs here, basically. Yeah.
Is this about not just one junction? It's about potentially setting a
This
precedent across the whole
could be,
city?
yes, this could be, yes.
I'm worried about, suddenly turning our city into something that doesn't look very nice.
And that's the argument they're asking you. It's for your comment. But again, like I said, I do stress that this is a comment. They might decide that they're going to go with the best practice,
Yeah.
but they want our comment.
I think I would agree with Andrew that for public safety, the knobbly bits are meant to help with that already. So is there any evidence that really
Yeah,
it's safer?
Very much so. It's the best practice guide. So they've turned
Yeah.
it from. I know what you're saying, the evidence, but that is the best practice, which means they generally would have put the evidence for that. So yeah, I would say more again. It's about, do you want the colour?
It does say that since the installation of the current tactile paving, it has operated without significant issue, as evidenced in the recorded collision stats for this location. So there hasn't been a problem with it not being red.
I would say leave it as it is. That would be my comment.
I would tend to agree. If it's not been a problem, let's
Jenny,
not
have you
change
got a
it.
view on it? And he won't be the only one that struggles. I think we get them to follow best practice.
You got wait till it's
Yeah, that's, okay, so those that want to keep it the same, put your hand up. Those that want to go with best practice.
Yeah, so we've got 5 to comment that we want to keep the same.
Right, which one are we doing next? Because I've
My
messed
Amazing
paperwork up.
Fantasy.
Oh, now we are on My Amazing Fantasy. Oh, okay. So this is to grant a license to renew the license. I didn't actually see.
This is the same license they apply every
Yeah.
year. So it's the
Yeah,
same
it's just
license.
renewing their license, which gets renewed every year. Any objections? No, as long as they put something nice in for Christmas.
And we do
As
need
their
a,
efficiency.
and we do need a firster and seconder on
Yeah.
this too. So,
Yeah. Yeah. They normally do put something festive in their window, don't they? Don't you ever notice it as you go past on the bus?
and are we okay for a first and
Maybe,
seconder?
maybe this is why so many people hit the killer curb.
Yeah.
There's a different conversation. Right, happy to, can we have a first and seconder to support this? Support, yeah, everybody in favour, there you go. Yeah. Sorry, we digressed. Annie? Oh, me probably, yeah. Right, is that you next, Annie?
It is,
Okay.
Annie.
Guys, on this notice of motion, Andy has been talking, the first part of it, where I'm talking about how things arrive as late business and don't give us time to consider things properly. Andy has been talking to Wiltshire officers about this, and they have agreed, I believe. Andy, do you want to say?
Yes, certainly. Yes. So obviously they've got the 21 days of consultation, which falls, and that's what we got on late business, yeah? So they don't plan when they put it in. When it starts, it's 21 days. On talking to them, I expressed with controversial and the major projects that where it falls into our committees, it really doesn't help us consultate. And what they've agreed is that like 99% of the time they will extend to our next meeting. So from now on, any major applications that we get or any controversial ones, I can extend till the next meeting. So that gives us over the 21 days. They'll give us up to 32 days to do that. So that's just the first part of that.
So I think, thank you, Andy, for sorting that out. So should we strike out up to the end of point 1? And wait and see how that arrangement works. And if it doesn't work, we can return to the fray. Point 2, I think we do need, I think that's very important. So it would just say this committee asks officers to point out to Wiltshire planners that it's unhelpful to forward applications involving Section 106 finance with all the figures redacted. So that paragraph, I think we need to send that to them.
And what will be useful is that I can send that to Nick, who's the head of the department now, because I've got contact with him. So I can send this, ask and request them from him, because the other side, when I've requested, has always been through a planning officer. I'm actually talking to the head of development.
So that's the motion then. The motion now is just as of from point 2. Yeah, are you seconding now?
I've got something to say. Does that just mean if we have that coming to us with sensitive information, it'll just be part 2 documents?
Sorry? Did it say what?
If we have, if this information isn't redacted and it comes to us with sensitive financial information, does that mean we'll just be issued with those as part 2?
Just go into
part
exempt.
2 exempt documents?
Yeah. I'll be issuing
There's no reason why we can't. I just think it's dreadful that they sent us all those pages and pages of blacked out figures. I think that's really rude. Well, maybe it isn't. Maybe they just didn't want us to see them. Don't know, do we?
I'll look into the process. I think maybe they sent it without thinking about the council redacted, so I can find that out.
They do think about us.
Well, that's sensible, Chairman. I'm happy to support all.
Is everybody in favour of sending that little reminder? Thank you very much. Can I just, I know this is not on the agenda, but can I just say very briefly, Andy and I have got a meeting tomorrow morning with our planning consultant to talk about the things he's saying on our behalf at the Wiltshire Local Plan Review. One of the things he said to me, and this is just for your information really, is that it wouldn't hurt if we started to keep tabs on the numbers of permitted developments and office conversions that are going through the system, rather than waiting on Wiltshire Council for the information. Because if we want to argue against more and more and more greenfield developments, one of the things which Wiltshire are wildly astray on at the moment is their assessment of how many permitted development office conversion type into flats, how much of that kind of windfall stuff is coming our way. So he did say it might be a useful thing to do. He also said it might be useful for us to do our own parking and air quality studies rather than waiting on Wiltshire, because it's never blooming well happening. So we're going to talk some more about that tomorrow, but I just wanted to put that on your radar, really. There are things we could do to help ourselves, is what I'm saying, I think, and especially with Andy doing all his amazing training. I mean, he's really getting into it.
Highway, the bridge, has that been circulated to all councillors?
The thing about the demolition of the bridge across
That's right.
the dual
Has that been
carriageway,
Yes.
I haven't. No, I've just picked it up on social media.
So I think because the meeting is held here, I think it should be circulated, don't you think? And
I can certainly ask the officers in the
councillors
morning, but yeah, I think the stairs, because obviously it's not ours, they're using our building as a venue. But yeah, I can ask if we can circulate.
Although it might not affect all the councillors, but everybody is kind of in touch with those bridge as well. So maybe their view.
We'll get an answer tomorrow. That's no problem.
You're absolutely right, Attical. It could turn into another cycle lane fiasco, couldn't it?
Before banging the gavel.
Sorry.
While we're all here, I wanted to just revisit what we can reasonably do, how we can be best helpful to stop Leadenhall falling down, but not, respect the right objections in terms of brokering a solution. And is that something that councillors can do? Is something committee members can do? Is it a conflict of some sort of interest?
In the letter that Andy's going to draft for me about getting the dean and chapter to come and talk to us, maybe we can put that in there, and suggestions of the constable museum or whatever. But obviously there'd need to be some kind of drive and evidence to prove that that is a possibility, which nobody brought forward.
I was very firmly batted down on this by senior officers just a year or two ago. It is not appropriate for us to be doing that, is what I was told.
That was my question.
So, I mean, because that would always be my inclination to say, come on, can't we all sit down and have a chat about it? Yeah. I was told no uncertain terms. I can't even remember if that was in Ace's time or if it was under Annie's.
Might have been under Annie.
But this was cropping up then, and this was what it was about.
Well,
so I don't know. I'd like to help.
I think new committee, we're all finding our feet. We can only ask.
Yeah.
And if we make tentative steps and ask, then it's going to help keep the residents on side as well, because we are still proactively doing stuff.
I mean, it literally is in my ward. So these residents are contacting me as a ward councillor to say blah, blah, blah. And then the other side is saying blah, blah, blah. And I want them just to talk to each other. And surely, can I do that as the ward?
Yeah. Well, maybe what we need to do is get the dean and chapter, Mac.
Well, you as councillors can obviously arrange any meeting that you want. I think the bit that Annie's saying is how much officers are dealing with it. But yeah, you can approach anyone as a councillor to have a meeting. Yeah.